Welcome back to the 12 Days of Chanmas. I think we are on day 9, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's day 9. It might be, no, I think it's day 9. And today I want to talk about, I recently wrote a Substack post, a newsletter. And if you're not familiar with what Substack is, it's like my new favorite platform. And it's like if you took Twitter, hello, thanks for being here. If you took Twitter, if you took email newsletter, and if you took blogs and like mushed them all together, that's what Substack would be. And so I'm really loving like the aspect of long form writing. I love writing, so it's been a really good outlet for me. And then there's like the aspect of social media where you create these tweets or whatever they are called. Anyway, all of that to say, I wrote a newsletter, a blog thing recently, and it was called More Women Need to Be Naked on the Internet. And this is everything that I stand for in my business. This is everything that I stand for in my coaching, in my mentorship. And I'm going to break it down for you here for the 12 Days of Chanmas, because this is a topic that I feel like I'm going to be talking about a lot in 2026, because in my opinion, it makes the biggest difference in your success of your business, because it's done that for me. Now, when I say more women need to be naked on the internet, I'm not saying that literally. Like, it's a metaphor, and I'm not talking about OnlyFans. I'm not talking about anything like crazy. I'm talking about like something far more radical than that. This like radical acceptance, radical responsibility, radical awareness, and becoming psychologically naked in front of your audience, this energetic nakedness, so that you have no barrier between who you are in real life and who you are online. And when you're able to match the two, because most women that I work with, they come to me and they're brilliant. They're superstars. Like they are so smart in their space and in their niche. And when it comes to their coaching and their mentorship, they go above and beyond for their people. Yet when it translates into their content, there's like this missing link. And so I want to talk about what this looks like. It just started pouring. It just started absolutely pouring. But I want to talk about what this looks like from a nakedness standpoint in your content, and what it takes to be the woman who can really take off in business. And the reason that I want to explain this is because I'm getting ready to host next week, actually, January 7th. I'm hosting the 2025 Exposed Masterclass. And I'm going to be treating this masterclass different than anything that I've ever done. And I'm going to really pull back the curtain on 2025 being one of the most difficult years for me personally. However, the most successful year in business. And I'm not going to just be giving you the highlight reel of what worked for me and what you can do moving forward. Like, yeah, I'll include all of that, but I also want to include like how I had to develop the capacity to be an elevated woman and hold myself through challenging times while also holding my clients. And sometimes like having these moments of like, geez, I can't believe this is happening in my life. And then I have to hop on a coaching call and I have to hold other people through what they're going through. And being able to do that, I feel like I really trained myself into being this elevated woman and this new approach to business. And I think it's no mistake that I had my most successful year in business because of that ability to evolve, less than like the strategy and all the things that I did and the way that I created a business model. It was more so about who I became along the way. And I would coin myself as an elevated woman, and I want to train you on what that looks like. And so I have my notes here, and I would say that this really matters right now because we're in this era of AI is coming in fierce. Like everyone's using AI to create content, or to even create their business model, to create their offers, to create, I don't know, they're creating everything with inauthenticity. And so right now it's like your audience is craving so much, whether they even know this or not. They're craving so much a woman with a bucket of wisdom. That is what people want right now. And so how do you already are that. So how do you put that into your content, into your business, into the way that you lead people? And I'll start with sharing something personal first, because I remember having this very specific moment where it's not anything like riveting. It wasn't like this massive moment in time that changed everything for me. But I remember scrolling through social media, and like I was just chilling on the couch. I was drinking my coffee and I was scrolling through social media, consuming content, looking at what people were doing. And I realized that something in my feed had totally shifted. It didn't feel the same. And I will be honest, like that's the moment where I decided like I'm going to mute a ton of people. I'm going to unfollow people that don't bring anything to the table for me, and not in like this like personal attacking way, but I got to this point where I felt so numb scrolling social media and I was uninterested entirely. And I've loved social media for so long, but I had hit like a bad batch of content or something that just was never ending. And I will tell you what it was. It felt like I was watching brilliant women, like women that I felt were so special, so different. I was watching them dilute themselves, and I was watching them post frameworks and share these carousels that had nothing to them other than just, it felt like they were in this autopilot, I don't know, to-do list of getting content out for nothing other than I want to make money with my social media. I could feel that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but at the same time, there's a lot wrong with that. And everything they were posting was not incorrect. It was correct. It was harmless. It was clean, but none of it stayed with me. In fact, it just pissed me off. And I remember thinking like, I'm not going to even remember any of this. Like nothing about this is making me feel anything. I'm not walking away changed. I'm not even walking away motivated. I'm like, when sometimes you'll scroll social media and you'll be like, I need to get my life together. I wasn't feeling that anymore. And then I realized something even worse, because it's in that moment that I was like, I'm going to go pretend like I'm having an out of body experience. And I'm going to go look at my own content from the last couple months. And I realized I was doing the same thing. I was doing the same thing that was actually taking me off. And I was posting with evoking no emotion. And there was no heartbeat to what I was sharing, because I got caught up in building a business and posting content that would help me build my business even more. And then questioning why things weren't converting, and then questioning my every life decision, and then questioning like, what am I even doing with my life? And I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling so much. And it's not because my content wasn't smart. It's not because what I was building wasn't smart. It's that no one could feel me, including myself. And so I remember I found this woman who is very, very successful in my industry, in our industry. And she's several years older than me, but I remember looking at her and being like, how did you build the massive business that you've built? And I'm talking, you guys, like she has like $100 million to her name in this one business. And she hasn't been open that long. It's only been less than 10 years. And I scrolled through her content and I went back years upon years. I even signed up for one of her masterclasses because I was like, there's no way that this is real, that she's making this much money. And I don't see anything in her feed other than a woman who was intentionally posting things without having to prove herself. And she wasn't even intentionally trying to position herself as an authority. She cracked her heart open in every single post. It was like reading a book, reading through her content. And she's so successful. And so when I got onto her masterclass, I was like, surely she's going to teach something in her masterclass. Like it's going to be mind blowing. Like I'm going to walk away forever changed. And I did walk away forever changed, but not in the way that I thought. I was watching her masterclass, and all she did, you guys, was reveal her thinking, her evolution in real time. That's all she did. She told story upon story upon story. She was like the craziest storyteller that I've ever witnessed, because she also doesn't tell stories from pain. Like she doesn't tell a story from I was down in the slumps and now I rose up from the adversity. Like she was actually telling real life stories from her current chapter, which is a really good chapter. And all she was doing was telling stories about what other people, I assume, because I was one of those other people watching her, what we desired. And she was embodying exactly who she became, exactly the benefits that she got to reap from all of the decisions she made prior. And she was expressing her standards in a way that made sense. She wasn't speaking from a pedestal. She wasn't speaking from, you got to do this, you got to do that. Here's the 3-step process to doing this, this, and this. There was no problem awareness content. There was no tangible strategy whatsoever. No features and benefits to her programs. It was simply come with me without saying it verbatim. It was come with me energy. And I swear to you, in that moment, I woke up. And this was probably, I want to say like in May-ish, like early May, maybe even April of 2025. And it shifted my entire business. It shifted my entire stance on who I became. And that next program that I launched was Made You Look. And Made You Look was one of my most successful programs in 2025. It went crazy and it was insanely impactful. Not even just like in like, okay, I definitely made a good amount of money from that program, but it made a difference for people. And it's because I woke up from this one person sitting in front of me doing it differently. And I realized that the women that we trust online, like the women that we look to and we're like, oh, I want to hire her, or like I admire the way that she runs her business, they're not the women who know the most. Like they're not the women who are sitting here like, I have all the answers and I know the codes and I have the keys and blah, 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 blah. They're the women who actually have nothing to hide, period. They don't question if they're being humble enough. They don't question if they're being too much. They're just being, quote unquote, like I started this training, they're being naked on the internet. They're not hiding anything. And it's not about oversharing. It's not about posting lifestyle content. That's not what this woman did, or now I've found many of them. It's like once I opened the jar, I've now found many of them, and that's who I choose to follow at this point. They're not even trying to be authentic. They just are. Like the authenticity just comes naturally to them. And I've realized that they don't even focus on protecting an identity of any sort. They don't even probably think about what identity am I portraying, or like how are people thinking of me, or how do I get people to buy? Like those are not thought processes of theirs. And so I created this idea, this philosophy called the Elevated Woman. And it was built off of this entire string of events where I was like, okay, I feel nothing. Okay, I feel something. Okay, I'm going to put that to practice. And oh my gosh, it made the craziest difference in my business. And it has shaped everything for me. It has shaped everything. So the Elevated Woman doesn't craft her brand by creating this persona. Like she's not intentionally trying to be somebody. She builds her brand by removing the friction between her inner world and her outer expression. And that is who the Elevated Woman is. So number one for the Elevated Woman, to realize, these are things to realize. You cannot lead people past a place that you refuse to look at yourself. You cannot lead other people past a place that you refuse to look at yourself. So if you feel like, okay, I think sometimes we have this like silent imposter syndrome because we realize we haven't healed parts of us that we're trying to help other people heal. Whether that is like, and again, you can sit here and while you're listening to this, you can say, I am a strategist. Like all I do is talk about strategy. I'm a fitness coach. Like it's that simple. Go to the gym. And that's where I would shake you and I would say, you're so wrong. There are parts of you that you haven't led yourself through and you're trying to lead other people through, and you're wondering why no one's listening. You're wondering why it's not working. And it's because you haven't done the inner work yourself. So that's number one thing to realize. And I had to go through this myself. Number two is content is everything. Like we already know that. Everything comes back to content. Your income is determined by how good your content is. Like content is everything. But if your content feels heavy, like if you're not excited to post it, if it doesn't feel, and you know the feeling of like, ooh, this really hits, like this is really me, I can guarantee that you're probably trying to carry an image rather than leaning on your truth. You're trying to carry an image versus leaning on your truth. So we need to figure out a way to get you back to your truth, get you back to your core. And then the third thing is most women, especially like the women that I work with, it's crazy. Like they come to me because they think they need better content. And when they think they need better content, they usually think I need better messaging. Like my messaging isn't landing. What can I say differently? Or what can I post differently? And I've witnessed this common theme so many times now that I've realized it's not that you need better messaging. It's that you actually need to like take off all the masks that you're wearing. Take them off, because you have so many masks on that you've completely lost who the real version of you is, and then you have a hard time messaging. That is the problem. So we work on that together to remove these masks. So sit with those three things for just a second, because those things are deep. And just when you thought like, This is just a simple strategy of I got to get some posts up, I got to build a business, I got to create some programs. It's way bigger than that. It's way deeper than that. So let me break down what this actually looks like in practice, because I told you that the 3 things to like watch out for. Now I want to break down how to become this kind of leader. And the first lesson, I just talked about this in the last training, is you have to really check yourself and stop trying to be the hero all the time. Because when you position yourself as the hero, not even just in your content, but in your mind, like when you literally think to yourself, I have all the answers and I can help everybody, your audience is not only like they can smell that and it feels icky, but you also will get people in your world that become dependent on you versus empowered by you. And that's not what you want. Like, you don't want to build a business where people feel, and I used to be like this, you guys, like I will be totally honest. I used to think to myself, like, I need to build this business strategy where people need me. And how do I do that? And so I would come up with these ways, and I'm admitting that to you because we all go through this. Like, we all make mistakes somewhere or another. But the moment that I realized I can't save my clients, like they can only save themselves, and I'm not here to be their hero, I'm here to serve them, my entire business changed. Like, the amount of, I just had somebody renew today in my world. And the reason that I have such a high renewal rate is because of this way that I approach my clients now, in a way where I don't center my brilliance as the solution. I don't center my expertise as the solution. I become the guide. I become the person who's holding their hand and walking with them through the journey. And I trust them to rise to the occasion. I literally look at everyone that comes into my world, and because they believe in me, I believe in them back. And that is, it sounds so simple, and you're probably like, yeah, obviously I believe in my clients, but do you? Like, do you really? Do you look at them and think you could be the next blah, blah, blah? Because that has changed my coaching. That has changed my mentorship. When I'm not my ideal client's breakthrough, like my clients paying me to enter my world is not the breakthrough. I'm the invitation. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot. 2025 has been like the biggest personal development year of my entire life. And I can't wait to share all of that with you guys in the upcoming masterclass. By the way, I'll take the opportunity. If you share one of these replays from the 12 Days of Chanmas, when we're done here, if you want to share this replay to your stories and tag me, you get a free seat to that masterclass, which is happening January 7th. Okay, back to business. That was step 1. You are not the hero. Step 2 is teaching through evolution versus teaching through expertise. And I actually think that there is an opportunity to have a healthy mix of these things, because there is a lot of times where strategy, like expertise, is very valuable. But I would say majority of the time, teaching through evolution is going to be the thing that sets you apart. It's going to be the thing that creates a sustainable business for you. It's going to be the thing that allows business to not feel so rigid and hard. And growth is going to happen like you wouldn't believe. And here's why. Your people that are coming into your world, whether they're paying you or they're here to consume your content, they do not trust perfection. The same way that you watch other people and you're not interested by perfection. You are interested in the process. So when you can unfold, the same way I just told you the story about how content became blah to me, like I told you that story, that's a real story. That's me teaching through my evolution. I didn't just make up this process out of thin air while I'm in the shower. Like, this came to me because I evolved, because I had to actually look at my reflection in the mirror. I had to look into my heart. And so when you stop teaching from this finalized pedestal and you share your evolution as it's happening, leading by example. So full embodiment, you have grounded energy, you show up with honesty, and you don't hide anything. Like, you're like, yeah, I went through this, I did it wrong, I made a mistake, I'm pulling back the curtain. Like, if you really want to separate yourself from the noise, it's become a behind the scenes master in your niche. So again, I'm not talking about lifestyle content. Don't share everything, but behind the scenes, like, what did you learn in 2025? Are you hosting a masterclass? Because that'd be a great opportunity for you going into the new year, is like exposing everything that you went through in 2025 and where you're taking it in the new year. one of my favorite quotes that I actually said myself, which sounds very crazy, but I remember I was at like a mastermind last year. I was at a retreat, and I remember saying this out loud and being like, oh wow, like that's it. Is mentoring and coaching is all about transferring power. That is the quote. End quote. Mentoring and coaching is all about transferring power. So when you think about even selling, for example, when you think about selling and you're like, okay, how can I get more people into blank offer or into whatever? How are you transferring the power from yourself to other people? And I'm going to tell you right now, you do not transfer the power by like writing on a chalkboard, A plus B equals C. That's not how you transfer power. You transfer power from, I had to learn that A plus B equals C, and here's how I had to learn that. That is, oh, Shannon, mwah. That is how you transfer the power. And you can't do this by only speaking at your ideal client. We make this so hard. We make this unbelievably hard on ourselves. If you just allowed yourself to be vulnerable and share parts of your journey aligned with your business, aligned with whatever you teach, whatever you coach, whatever transformation you facilitate, if you allowed yourself to get vulnerable and pull back the curtain on those things, you have stories for freaking days. You have stories for days, and you're holding them all in because you think you have to be this polished mentor who is an authority and has all the answers. Like, no one wants that. No one is interested in that. When you look at the people who have really built iconic brands, and I don't care what niche they're in, this is applicable across the board. They've done this because of many things, but one thing that is most important that I've witnessed is they have this ability to lead by example, to talk about things as they're happening in real time, and to tell stories in reflection of what they did wrong, right, and everything in between. And they come from this place of like, I'm here on this journey. It's not like, look at me, but it's come with me. Okay, so that's step 2. Step 3 is leading without needing proof. And I used to work with a ton of beginners. I still have a good chunk of beginners in business in my world, but I used to work with a ton of beginners. That's how I built my entire business, was like people who have never done online business. I would coach them to create an online course, and that would kick off their entrepreneurial journey. Here's the thing. Most powerful leaders don't have to ask to be believed. And I think that you're doing that subconsciously. You don't realize that you're asking to be believed, but you are trying to force other people to believe you because you don't believe yourself. You don't believe yourself. And so the opposite of that would be to start speaking with certainty, to own exactly where you're at right now. That's another thing is this is a lesson of mine. I used to think I needed to wait until I was making 10K months to coach people in business. And then I got to 10K months and I'm like, why would I ever wait for that? Like, own where you're at. When I was making $2,000 a month, I should have been like, yo, I'm making $2,000 a month. I'm working a 9 to 5. Like, this is so cool. Like, owning that entirely and taking up space with where you're at, you're going to crush it. It's like, even if you are, let's say, a divorce coach or something, and you are helping women heal from divorce, and you think that you have to be a year out of divorce in order to say, I've done all these things in the last year, because that's when people are going to believe you. Instead, it's like, I'm 1 week fresh out of divorce being finalized, and here's what I'm proud of. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how far I've come in just 1 week. And again, this is where this is like a double standard, a double meaning. It's twofold, because you can only speak about those things if you're actually doing the work in real life. It's like, I could only talk about getting to 2K months if I was doing the work to get to 2K months. So you see how this all makes sense, and you'll know exactly who you are, and you won't be easily rattled when you stop thinking you have to perform like somebody in the future, and instead you just own where you're at right now. You lead without needing the proof. So those are the 3 steps, okay, to doing this. Now, the phases to becoming an elevated woman, and I went through all 3 of these phases this year. This was insane. Like, this year is the year that I became the elevated woman. And the first phase was something that I thought I had already mastered, and I didn't. And it was self-awareness. The root is phase one, the root, which is self-awareness. And self-awareness can be somewhat selfish, which I think is very interesting. And I've learned to define this in my own way, but we all know what self-awareness is. And what's crazy is I told you 2025 has been one of the most challenging personal years of my entire life, yet self-awareness grew at an all-time high. And that's because I had to be honest with myself. I had to get so honest with myself before I could ever ask anyone else to respect me. And that is self-awareness. Get honest with myself before I can ask anyone else to respect me. And I'm going to share all the stories and all the ways in which I face this in the upcoming masterclass. But I will say, like, self-awareness is one of my superpowers now. It really is. And I do attribute that to going through hard times personally. And that's where I feel like I've been sad a lot of 2025. I've been heartbroken, but at the same time, I'm thankful for that because my self-awareness is a weapon for me. It truly is. Yes, that's good. Yeah. So that's the first phase is self-awareness. Is getting very honest with yourself and being aware and not like we can gaslight ourselves. We can shove things under the rug. We can dismiss feelings. Like a lot of the time I had to move through leaning into toxic positivity. Like I'm at my core, I'm an optimist. I'm very positive, but I think I learned that sometimes I use that as a crutch. So self-awareness really helped me overcome that. The second phase is what I call the rise, and that is true embodiment. And for us women who are building brands and we're leading other women or men, embodiment is not anything other than acting in alignment with where you currently are. But I'm not even talking about content. Like, yes, I think embodiment and content is a major code, but right now I'm talking about the elevated woman, like who you are outside of all of this to develop the capacity. Embodiment is what you do and who you are when nobody's watching. It's like the way you think, the way that you look at other people. Are you judging? Do you have empathy? It's like, what type of person are you when no one is there to witness who you are? What type of person are you? Are you sad? Are you victimizing yourself? Are you loving yourself through certain things? Are you loving other people? Like, what's actually going on inside of you and how do you embody that? That's the phase 2. And then the phase 3 is the elevation. So the elevated woman has 3 phases: the root, the rise, the elevation. And the elevation is leadership. And there's been some like crazy things that happened in my business this year that could have knocked me out of my power so fast. I attribute the foundation of self-awareness and embodiment to the fact that I didn't give up. But leadership is the thing that has continuously scaled my business. And leadership is not like, we all think of leadership and we think of, or at least I think of like, I don't know, Michael Jordan or like someone who is like a fierce leader. And then when you look at those people, when you really study leaders, they lead without force. And we already talked about this, but like they're not forcing anyone to follow them. And that is applicable. Like, this is why I feel like content is such a portal into who you actually are. And everyone wants their content to be better. Everyone wants their content to do the converting and the heavy lifting for them, yet they're not willing to do this work that we're talking about. So your content will only be as good as you are. And when you have to think of ways to force people to follow you or force people to buy from you or force people to join your community, whatever that is, and you're using like superiority, you're using noise, you're using pressure, that doesn't feel good. That is not leadership. Leadership is leading by example, and that's it, period. Leading by example. So again, I go back to, are you self-aware? Are you embodied? And how do you lead by example? And that is the elevated woman. And I will say another thing that I learned is in my mastermind, which is my high ticket 6-month mastermind. In the middle of the year, I started doing monthly challenges with my mastermind. And every single month there's a new challenge. And this challenge is always structured around content because that's the core of what I teach. And I learned that, okay, if I'm going to create these challenges and tell them to go off and do this and hold each other accountable, I need to do it with them. Like, I need to get in the trenches with them. That's leadership. And that way, when they have questions or when they come to me on a hot seats coaching call and they're like, yeah, that didn't work, or it didn't go the way that was planned, I can now actually come from a place of experience because I did it too. So it's one of those things that I also never tell any of my clients to do something that I haven't done or that I wouldn't do. And so that is leadership in itself. It's leading by example, and it's being truthful in that. And those aren't, again, I'm not talking about like marketing phases. This is not marketing. This is not content. Has everything to do with the capacity of who you are. And although I'm a content and branding coach, like that's what I do, that's what I love, I can't teach you good marketing. I can't teach you good content without teaching you how to become a good person, a great person. You have to become a better person if you want all of these things to do well. And so if you want to make epic content, if you want to build an epic business, become an epic person, period. And guess what epic people do? They go through hard things. Like truly, like it's not, like I just spent 10 days in New York, and it was really tough for me to focus on my work. It was really tough for me to like stay disciplined and show up. And that's part of like another thing that I've learned about myself is, okay, what does it take for me to do my work? Do I have to be in this beautiful office sitting at this desk? Is that the only time that I can work? Because that's crazy weak, in my opinion. Like circumstances do not have to be perfect for me to show up for something that I love, which is my business. And that's something that I had to learn. That's self-awareness. And then I take it to the next phase of embodiment. And then I take it to the next phase of leadership. And all of these things shape me into this elevated woman. So I will wrap this up with one question that I want to leave you with, because I think that was very deep. That's a lot to contemplate. That's a lot to take away and think about. And I would love for you to ask yourself, like, what part of you is still covered up online? What part of you is still being masked in your presence, in your content? And also, the secondary question to that is, what part of you is masked in front of your clients? Like, where are you holding back? Are you trying to show up all the time with all the answers, or are you having human to human connection with them? Do you know about their lives? Do you know, and that's another thing I'm going to talk about in the upcoming masterclass is like the capacity to hold what my clients are going through while also holding myself through what I'm going through. That takes an elevated woman. And that was tough at times. But is there a gap between who you are in real life versus who you are in social media and who you are with your clients? And if there's a gap there, we need to work on shrinking that. And so if you were to fill in the blank, if you stopped trying to be impressive, that's also another life lesson of mine. For so long, I was trying so hard to be impressive, but we can talk about that another day. If you stop trying to be impressive and you finally allowed yourself to be blank, what would that thing be? If I stopped trying to be impressive and I finally allowed myself to be blank, who would you be? All right, y'all, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you're having an amazing start to your Monday, and happy New Year's week. It's a big week. We are going into a new year. That's crazy. I will see you for the next training for the 12 Days of Chanmas. We are nearing the end, and then 2026 is going to be insane. So I can't wait to do this with you. Mwah. Have the best night.